Let the meltdown begin. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's do this thing Christmas Eve style as we break it down. As you can see, we got Robin Black sitting alongside. And if you're joining us tonight, I really appreciate it because you're either a really diehard fan of the Fight Network, you're a big fan of mine, or you're just sort of clicking around because you hate your family and you're not a big fan of Christmas. Either way, thanks for joining us.
You could also be watching this Christmas Day. That's possible. It's going to air a couple times, or even Boxing Day. And you know, at least Boxing Day makes sense because that's about boxing, right?
It's amazing. Christmas Eve, people are going to be like, "Oh God, I don't want to see this now."
These guys.
Exactly. Christmas Day, opening up the gifts, and here we are. Well, I tell you, Robin. We've opened up a couple of big gifts. And MMA fans, we got a huge gift, a light heavyweight gift, rapidly approaching, coming up next week in Las Vegas, Nevada. But first things first, the gift that arrived here at the Fight Network. If you're unaware, although you probably are right now, that you know, we've come a long way here at the Fight Network, obviously. I remember the days in yesteryear when the studio was like in the middle of freaking nowhere. It took like 90 minutes to get there.
It was a dance studio. It was an old dance studio.
It was a dance studio. There were about 4 employees. There were like cobwebs everywhere, and there was a brick wall. The production studio was a brick wall.
One light pointed at it.
I don't think we were allowed to talk about the UFC, let alone air the UFC.
I don't think so.
There was like, we were warned, if you even talk about the UFC, you're going down.
Yeah.
And
we made some mistakes.
Yeah, here we are now, 5 years later. We will be airing the UFC. Great news, and great news for you, Robin. You put in a lot of work here. And you just recently went on a diatribe about how it's all about the sport. It's about the steak, not the sizzle. And now you got a lot of steak to cut up, man, with pre-fight shows, post-fight shows, and all the great fights that we're going to be airing here on the Fight Network.
Oh man, it's exciting for sure. You're right. I mean, we were kind of like many people around that era. If you had done anything kind of wrong, at Fight Network, we were young, trying to figure out the way, just getting started. We didn't know exactly what we were doing. We were not persona non grata or gratis or chips.
Oh, we've had like 13 owners.
Yeah, there's that.
A couple of them, I think, are on like Skid Row now with Balsillie and stuff. Like, times have changed here, trust me.
Yeah, in the last 5 years, a guy named Leonard Asper came into this business. The guy's got a lot of experience in television, and he brought some of the key people in here, and we built a real television station, a real sports television station, where we cover what we think is the greatest sport in the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We worked hard to get better and better at covering it. We've worked harder to feed our audience, and we developed an audience that loves, I think they see what we do a little differently. We cover the pure sport a lot more. And you're right, I wrote about that the other day, partly because the pendulum has swung so far to one side that people actually believe that talking about Twitter beefs, and I'm not against that, talking about gossip and those kinds of things are the reporting of this sport. And that's not necessarily the case, because you got to swing the pendulum a little harder the other way and cover the real sport, analyze the beauty of the technique of the sport and what happens actually in the cage. And I think we do a pretty good job of that here, and I think that's why we built an audience, and I think that's partly why the UFC broke off a chunk of their Canadian coverage and gave it to us.
Well, that's right. And the UFC, it should be taken care of and nurtured by people that care about the sport 24/7, and not a network that just sort of has it because of the bottom line.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's always about the bottom line, isn't it?
Yep.
And that the sizzle part, we seem to be stuck in this sizzle part right now. Why is Rampage Jackson? Like, it continues, Robin.
Yeah.
All that you hate continues on a daily basis.
And it's not that I hate it. It's just, the only way to swing it back to the middle is be on the other side of it. And that's where I find myself as a purist. That's where a lot of what we do here at Fight Network is we're showing you what the sport of fighting is. And I think that's something that we have a bit of the audience, or a chunk of the audience, that's never fallen in love with the pure beauty of combat in the cage between two two highly trained martial artists. And that's what we're working hard to do. But, you know, it's a real exciting time, man. And the deal is actually TSN, which is the biggest sports broadcaster in Canada, and RDS, which is the biggest French broadcaster, and Fight Network work together. The TSN will show the big cards. They have the big audience, and we'll show some of the undercards. We'll show some of the international cards. It's going to be badass, man. Starting in January, and I think our first one is McGregor versus Seaver. That's going to be the first one where you can see the undercard here on Fight Network, and we'll be giving you coverage all week.
No, I'm extremely fired up for this. As I stated, congratulations to everyone at the Fight Network. Hard to believe. MMA Meltdown, we're moving in on our 5th anniversary.
Amazing.
Yeah, I can't believe the 5 years has gone by. Like I said, I just look back to the 5 years. I don't even remember some of the dudes that I met. And
yeah, I know.
Just the progress from the brick wall.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was a freaking brick wall.
One light.
Yeah, there was like one light, a brick wall, and like 4.5 employees, and I don't know.
I was the half.
And like 18 interns. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And now, hey, we've come a long way. Some great fights coming up here, Robin, including John Jones and Daniel Cormier. Joey Odessa, who's come on the program routinely. If you're wondering about Joey, he's been under the weather. If you want to wish him your well wishes on Twitter, he's okay. But, you know, he's still recovering right now, not in show mode, so to speak. But Joey's been calling Cormier. Joey said that Cormier was going to win that heavyweight tournament that they did before in Strikeforce. But I'm on board with Daniel Cormier here. So just to go on record, because it's the last time you and I are going to talk before the fight, Robin, I not only believe that Daniel Cormier is going to win this fight, I think he's going to win in emphatic fashion in which he stops John Jones and like destroys John Jones, smashes John Jones, maybe in the first round, second round. But I look at a guy, if you can beat Bigfoot and you can toss Josh Barnett around like a rag doll, and you can handle Frank Mir like he's a lightweight. Yeah. And I believe that Daniel Cormier could beat Cain Velasquez at heavyweight.
He probably beats him some days in the gym.
I believe, I think it's 1 and 1A with these two. And I think he's going to be too much. I think the wrestling, I think Jones doesn't want any part of the ground. I think Jones tries to keep the standing up all the time. And I think Cormier has the power.
Yeah, well, it's certainly possible. There's a lot of variables. This is a fight you have to see. You have to see it. If you don't, and there are people talking about this one. All the guys that work here are like, yeah, you know, my friends don't watch it. And it's interesting. Again, it's that stuff that doesn't do it for me, but whatever works.
No, but you know what, Robin?
You see the behind-the-scenes stuff.
When you see the countdown for this show, and you're right, even like the casual sport fan is interested in this, not because I don't think of the smack talk. When you look at these guys, you're like, they're that damn good.
Yeah. And they're undefeated. John Jones has that BS.
No, exactly. Like, it's real hype. It's not like Rashad and man.
I don't like him. Yeah, I don't like him. We're not friends anymore. No, these are the two best guys.
This is two great guys. An Olympian, a badass who's 15-0 that knocks heavyweights out against the young gun, egotistical, narcissistic psycho that's freaking unbeatable.
Yeah, and the thing, there's a lot of variables, and one of those is Daniel Cormier has a lot less reach, and that's part of Jones's gig. But he's been working on planning for Jones for a long time. He's also, when he competed in wrestling, he fought at heavyweight. Everybody was taller than him. When he fought Bigfoot, he dealt with that range extraordinarily well. He closes distance
Barnett,
really well.
Everyone's bigger than him.
Yeah,
he's
all his life.
He's like the wrestler Rhino. He's sort of like that sort of fire hydrant type of. You know who he reminds me of, Cormier? Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
He's very Mike Tyson-like.
And if you remember against Bigfoot with that range, he would slip out and hammer the overhand right, much like Tyson. Tyson would go to the body and throw the left hook, but that same sort of slip off the line and while closing distance drill him. So he has the ability for sure. John Jones is one of the most gifted guys out there. There's been a lot of talk, and some of it, you know, I'm sure Joey Odessa, when he goes and he ranks some of these guys, he goes into the gym. He goes into his people who say, how's this guy working? How's that guy working? And John Jones has a reputation of not being a hard worker.
All the gym guys behind the scenes, and I talk to a lot of these guys. As a betting man, it's one of the things I put a lot of stock in. The behind-the-scenes guys think Cormier's wrestling is going to be too much for Jones.
Well, and the behind-the-scenes reputation of John Jones is he's so gifted and he's not going to outwork everybody, and Cormier does. The thing about John Jones, though, is when he's motivated, that's when he works. You know, when he wants it, when he's like damn, I got something to prove. When the pressure is elevated, that's when the guy works hard. But I can see your thing coming true. There's no question about it. You got a 15-0 Olympian with that kind of power. He just needs to land one. You see, he drops everybody he hits with that right hand. Everybody at heavyweight. So it's certainly possible. But if Jones gets the right game playing, if he gets the game going on the outside, if he frustrates Cormier, if he makes Cormier make a few mistakes, it can go the other way. But it's certainly not crazy to bet on Cormier, and it's not crazy to bet on Cormier winning in spectacular fashion.
Two things that concern me about Daniel Cormier. One, the knee.
Yeah.
You know, what's the status of the knee? How healthy really is he? And number two, I think Cormier does a great job on TV. Yeah. A lot of these fighters are awful, right? I like this guy because I train with him, and like the generic, oh, I saw him hitting the bag at the gym type thing. Come on, guys, right? Or you get Chael that just says something crazy for the sake of it.
It's fun, though.
Yeah, exactly. Says something crazy for the sake. I think Cormier does a great job on TV, but why is he doing TV weeks before the biggest fight of his life, Rob? When they had that UFC doubleheader 2 weeks ago, Cormier did the Friday and Saturday shows. You know, they were in Vegas and Phoenix. I know it's 4 hours away. Still, you got a championship fight, the fight of your life, and you're that good, and they're doing research, Robin. You know it. You know, this is Fox. They're just not walking in off the street here. He's putting work in here. Does that bother you? The biggest fight of his life. Does that bother you at all?
It depends on the individual. For some guys, they got their 22-hour hard work weekend, and they need some other distraction. Also, being mentally in fighting, being in analysis, being mentally in looking at fights, talking about fights, it probably keeps his head in the game. It doesn't bother me that much, but it is an interesting observation. If I'm Jones's guys, I'm saying to him, we are training during those hours. So when we know he's wearing a suit and he's sitting at a desk, your mind is going, I'm working. And
I use this as motivation, saying he's not even training. He's doing TV right now because he thinks he can beat you without even being in the gym right now.
And while he's getting his face made up and his shirt fixed and like a makeup lady fixing his hair and stuff, you're hitting, you're training, you're sparring.
And Robin,
that's good motivation.
I know he's a professional athlete, but he's had weight problems in the past, weight cut issues in the past, and you got to be extremely disciplined. You're in that arena. Is he eating salad in the arena? Is there popcorn? Is soda around? I'm being serious.
I don't think.
How the hell do you stay focused as a fighter? Like you said, if I'm John Jones and I'm his camp, I'm using this every time. Look, he's not even training. While you're sitting there eating your protein, like you're eating you're eating your oatmeal.
Look how nice his tie is while you're getting punched in the nose. Yeah, it's true. Interesting fight though. You got to see it.
I'm stoked. Who you picking?
I think I'll go out on a limb on Cormier as well, but to be honest, I'm going to do a breakdown. It's going to air on 5 rounds on December 29th.
He's holding out on us.
I'll get the full picture by then, but I am leaning towards Cormier having ways to win.
All right, quickly, Jury, we got to get out of here, but Jury and Cerrone.
Love it. Love it. Jury, if he's going to win this, well, that's what we're going to find out. If he's going to win this, he's going to win it with finesse and grace and by not getting into a gunfight with Cerrone. That's very hard to do. Cerrone brings you into those. He puts his cowboy hat on and he walks up to you and he starts spinning his gun. I mean, what are you going to do? He's got to stay on the outside.
We got to wrap it up, but two completely guys, Robin, as you stated. A guy that'll come from hunting, come from ski boarding or whatever.
Parasailing, whatever crazy stuff.
Parasailing, right into the octagon. Meanwhile, Jury's meeting with sports shrinks. He's into the science of sport and visualization and like.
Often I lean towards that, but then there's these crazy motherfuckers.
They just fight,
They just fight, and those guys are really hard to deal with. Cerrone is the ultimate one.
Great clash, great card, Robin Black. We'll see you next year, Robin.